You've seen the billboards. You've watched the movies. You think you know Las Vegas. But there's a version of this city that never makes it into the brochures, the one locals actually live in. And if you ask them about certain spots, certain habits, certain traps tourists walk straight into every single time, most of them will give you the same answer. Just keep driving. The Strip is not Las Vegas. Here's something that will genuinely surprise most visitors. The Las Vegas Strip is not technically in Las Vegas. Most of it sits in an unincorporated community called Paradise, Nevada. That's not a joke or a technicality locals use to sound clever at parties. It's a real jurisdictional distinction that has real consequences. Paradise has its own governance, its own tax structure, and its own priorities. The casinos pushed for this separation decades ago, and it stuck. What that means for tourists is simple. You can spend an entire long weekend on the Strip, fly home, and say you went to Las Vegas, and you'd be wrong. You were in a resort corridor designed specifically to extract money from people who don't know any better. The properties are in Clark County, not the city of Las Vegas, and that boundary matters more than most people realize. The actual city of Las Vegas starts roughly where the resort properties thin out. It has neighborhoods with grocery stores, public parks, schools, and people who get genuinely annoyed when someone asks them if they live near all the casinos. Some of them live 45 minutes from the nearest slot machine, and they prefer it that way. Locals have a term for the Strip that doesn't need much translating: the tourist trap. Not because it's bad, exactly, but because it operates on a completely different set of rules than the rest of the valley. Everything on the Strip costs more. Everything is designed to slow you down, disorient you, and keep you spending. The casinos famously have no clocks, minimal natural light, and layouts that make it genuinely difficult to find the exit. That's not an accident. That's architecture working as intended. Some properties are so large that walking from the front entrance to a specific restaurant inside can take 10 minutes. You will pass hundreds of machines on the way. The resort fees are their own conversation. A hotel room advertised at $89 a night becomes $160 once the mandatory resort fee, taxes, and parking charges are added. Locals know this. They stopped being surprised by it years ago. First-time visitors do not, and the look on their faces at checkout is something the front desk staff have seen 10,000 times. I haven't been to the Strip in 3 years and I live 20 minutes away. There's no reason to go unless someone's visiting. Long-time Henderson resident. So when a local tells a tourist, just keep driving past the Strip, they're not being unhelpful. They're being honest in a way the Welcome to Las Vegas sign never will be. Fremont Street is a different kind of hustle. A lot of tourists, after being told the Strip is overpriced and overwhelming, pivot to Fremont Street. They've heard it's the real Vegas, the old school Vegas, the place where it all started. And there's some truth to that. Fremont Street is where the original casino district was built, starting in the 1940s and booming through the following decades. The Golden Nugget opened there in 1946. Binion's Horseshoe, which became the home of the World Series of Poker, was on Fremont. The history is real, but the Fremont Street experience as it exists today is a 1990s renovation project built to save a dying district. The famous LED canopy, the Viva Vision screen, stretches about 1,500 feet and cost around $70 million when it was built in 1995. It brought foot traffic back. It also brought a very particular kind of atmosphere that locals tend to avoid. The entertainment on Fremont is free, which sounds great until you're standing next to someone dressed as a half-naked Wolverine who expects a tip for a photo. The crowds can get rowdy in ways the Strip actually manages to suppress through security and controlled environments. Fremont Street after midnight on a weekend is not a place most locals are voluntarily spending time. Some of the casinos themselves are worth stepping into for the history alone. The Golden Nugget, for example, has a shark tank in the middle of its pool, which is exactly as strange as it sounds. But most locals will tell you Fremont is something they bring out-of-town guests to once for the novelty of it, and that's the end of the relationship. That said, the blocks just off the main canopy tell a different story. The Arts District, centered around South Main Street, has been quietly developing into something genuinely worthwhile. Independent restaurants, local breweries, galleries, and a First Friday event each month that draws the actual creative community of Las Vegas. It doesn't look like what people expect Vegas to look like, which is exactly why locals actually go there. It's walkable, unpretentious, and has no zip line overhead. The honest version of Fremont Street advice from a local is go once during the day, walk through it, and then turn left and head toward the Arts District. That's where the interesting stuff is. The rest is a light show you can watch from a distance. The real neighborhoods nobody talks about. Las Vegas is a sprawling metro area of about 2.2 million people. Most of them live in places that appear in zero travel guides. Summerlin, on the western edge of the valley, is an enormous master-planned community built against the Spring Mountains. Henderson, to the southeast, has been one of the fastest-growing cities in the country and has its own distinct identity. Quieter, more suburban, with a surprisingly good restaurant scene. North Las Vegas has its own city government, its own culture, and its own history. The valley floor stretches in every direction from the Strip, and once you get into it, it looks like any other large Sunbelt city. Big box stores, chain restaurants, suburban subdivisions, heat, a lot of heat. The strip malls go on forever. There are more nail salons per capita than seems mathematically possible, but there are pockets that reward exploration. The historic West Side is Las Vegas's oldest African-American neighborhood, with deep roots going back to the 1940s when black performers who headlined on the Strip were barred from staying in the hotels where they performed. The Cotton Club on the West Side hosted performers including Nat King Cole and Sammy Davis Jr. That history is part of Las Vegas that gets almost no mainstream attention. There are ongoing efforts to preserve and document it, but it still doesn't appear on the tourist maps. The University District around UNLV gives the city a different texture entirely. Coffee shops, used bookstores, students, a pace that has nothing to do with the 24-hour casino clock. The Smith Center for the Performing Arts, which opened in 2012, brought Broadway touring productions and major orchestral performances to a city that had spent decades being defined by showroom acts and tribute bands. Spring Valley, Centennial Hills, Green Valley, these are places where people actually build lives in Las Vegas, where kids grow up, where people commute, where someone has a neighborhood coffee shop they've been going to for 10 years. None of it photographs well for Instagram, which may be exactly why it stays under the radar. What the city does have, spread across these neighborhoods, is a genuinely diverse population. The gaming and hospitality industry draws workers from all over the world, and many of them stay. Las Vegas has significant Filipino, Latino, and Pacific Islander communities that have been here for generations. The cultural fabric of the actual city is considerably more textured than the monoculture of the resort corridor suggests. The weather nobody prepared you for. People know Las Vegas is hot. They just don't know how hot in a way that actually registers until they're standing on a black asphalt parking lot in July at 2 in the afternoon, wondering if they're going to make it to the car. The Las Vegas Valley sits in the Mojave Desert. Summer temperatures regularly exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The record high, set in 2017, was 117 degrees. At that temperature, the heat isn't just uncomfortable, it's a genuine safety risk. Every summer, people are hospitalized for heat-related illness. Some don't survive it. Clark County has been tracking heat-related deaths for years, and the numbers go up when there are prolonged heat events with no overnight cooling. Here's the part that catches tourists off guard. The Strip is not air-conditioned outside. The casinos are kept at a temperature that feels Arctic by comparison, so people walk from one to another thinking they can handle it. The walk from the MGM Grand to New York, New York looks short on a map. In July, it is a meaningful physical challenge. The pavement radiates heat upward while the sun pushes it down from above. The air feels like it's coming out of a convection oven. Locals adapt. They do outdoor things in the early morning or after sunset. They stay inside from roughly noon to 6. They drink water constantly. The dry desert air dehydrates you faster than humidity does, because you don't notice how much you're sweating. They know which parking structures are worth the detour, specifically because they offer shade. They know which grocery stores have the best air conditioning for when you just need to stand somewhere cool. Tourists, by and large, do not follow any of these rules. They walk the Strip at 3 in the afternoon in August in jeans, carrying a yard-long novelty drink they bought for the Instagram shot, and wonder why they feel terrible. Then they tell people Las Vegas was exhausting. It was, but it didn't have to be. The flip side of all this is winter, which Las Vegas does not get enough credit for. From November through February, Daytime temperatures are typically mild and pleasant, low 60s to mid 50s, often with clear blue skies. The casinos are less crowded, the prices are noticeably lower, and you can actually walk outside without questioning your choices. Locals will tell you winter is the best kept secret the city has. The tourist industry would prefer you didn't know and kept booking in July. The dining scene that doesn't charge resort fees. Las Vegas has developed one of the better restaurant cities in the country, and almost none of it is on the Strip. Celebrity chef outposts on the casino floors are real, and some of them are genuinely excellent, but you're paying for the address as much as the food. A meal that costs $180 at a casino restaurant might cost $60 at the same chef's standalone location in a strip mall off Flamingo Road. Same kitchen philosophy, very different invoice. The local dining scene has been quietly building for years. There are Vietnamese restaurants in the Spring Valley area that locals will defend with the intensity of a personal conviction. There are Basque restaurants, a holdover from the region's ranching history, that serve family-style meals in a format most people from outside the West have never encountered. The portions are enormous. The wine is poured without ceremony, and the whole thing costs a fraction of what you'd spend at any casino steakhouse. There are taquerias, Korean barbecue spots, Filipino restaurants, and Peruvian places that have nothing to do with the resort industry and everything to do with the actual population that lives here. Las Vegas has a large and growing immigrant community that has shaped the food landscape in ways that rarely get acknowledged. The city's Chinatown, centered on Spring Mountain Road west of the Strip, is one of the more vibrant in the Southwest. It expanded significantly over the past 2 decades, and now includes Japanese, Korean, Thai, and Vietnamese restaurants alongside the original Chinese businesses. On a Saturday evening, the parking lots are full of locals. You will not see a shuttle bus from any hotel. The best meal I've had in Las Vegas in the last 5 years was in a shopping center next to a nail salon. No valet, no chandelier, absolutely no one from out of town, local food writer. The challenge is that without local knowledge, finding these places is genuinely hard. They're not in the hotel concierge binder. They don't advertise on the airport billboards. They survive on regulars and word of mouth, which is exactly the system that keeps them good. Gambling the way locals actually do it. The Strip casinos are engineered for maximum revenue extraction. The odds aren't secret. Casinos are legally required to post their payout percentages in Nevada, but they're also not advertised in large font near the entrance. Slot machines on the Strip have some of the worst odds in the state. The games are designed for people who don't play often and don't particularly know what they're doing, which describes most of the tourists standing in front of them. The table game minimums on the Strip have also crept up significantly over the years. A $10 blackjack table used to be common. Now, on a weekend, finding a table under $25 at a major Strip property is increasingly rare. And at peak hours, some properties push minimums to $50 or $100. The math for the casual player gets worse the higher those minimums go. Locals who gamble, and not all of them do, which is its own interesting fact about living in this city, tend to go to the locals' casinos. These are a distinct category of property. Station casinos, Boyd gaming properties, the South Point. They're built for people who come back regularly, so the odds are better, the food is cheaper, the rewards programs actually make sense, and the overall atmosphere is dramatically less aggressive. The Palms, Red Rock, Green Valley Ranch, these are resort-quality properties built for a local market. They function as community anchors in a way that the Strip properties never do, because the Strip has no community to anchor. The video poker pay tables at a locals casino are substantially better than anything you'll find between the Wynn and the Luxor. It's also worth noting that a meaningful portion of Las Vegas locals don't gamble at all. When you live somewhere that looks like a casino from the outside, the romance of it disappears pretty quickly. People who work in the industry or who grew up watching it often have a deeply practical relationship with the activity. They know exactly what it is, and they choose accordingly. There's also the question of what gambling culture has become on the Strip specifically. Sports betting, which became legal in Nevada long before most of the country caught up, has transformed the sportsbook areas of major casinos into major destinations in their own right. The massive screens, the constant action, the crowds on NFL Sundays, it's a whole separate phenomenon that operates alongside the traditional casino floor. Locals who do bet tend to have their books of choice and their systems, and they're rarely doing it inside a property charging $45 for parking. The traffic and the drive nobody warned you about. Las Vegas traffic is one of the city's genuinely underreported problems. The metro area was designed almost entirely around the car, with very little functional public transit for the average person outside the resort corridor. The Strip has a monorail that connects some of the casino properties on one side of Las Vegas Boulevard, but it doesn't connect to the airport, doesn't reach Fremont Street, and doesn't go anywhere most residents need to go. The Regional Transportation Commission runs bus routes across the valley, but the service frequency and coverage make it impractical for most commutes. What this means practically is that everyone drives everywhere, and the roads can be punishing. The I-15 through Las Vegas is one of the most congested stretches of interstate in Nevada. During a major convention, and Las Vegas hosts dozens of them each year, from CES in January to SEMA in November, the traffic doesn't just slow down, it stops completely. The convention calendar is something locals track, the way people in beach towns track hurricane season. When there's a large convention at the Las Vegas Convention Center, which sits just off the Strip, it ripples through traffic patterns citywide. Hotels fill up. Rideshare surge pricing becomes absurd. Taxis queue around the block. People who know this plan around it, rescheduling errands, leaving earlier, or simply staying home. For tourists who drive in from Southern California on a Friday afternoon, a very common move given that Las Vegas is about 4 hours from Los Angeles, the experience of hitting that traffic on the I-15 near the Nevada border is formative. The road through the desert is wide and empty, and then suddenly it isn't, and you're sitting in a line of cars that stretches as far as you can see, with nothing around you but heat and Joshua trees and a gas station that's charging 20 cents more per gallon than anywhere in California. Locals leaving for a long weekend do the same thing in reverse. The Sunday evening return on the I-15 heading back to California is a ritual of misery that regulars have learned to avoid by leaving either early Sunday morning or waiting until Monday. The Waze app becomes something people check the way others check weather forecasts. The water in the desert. Las Vegas gets roughly 4 inches of rain per year. The Colorado River, specifically Lake Mead, supplies about 90% of the valley's water. Lake Mead is the largest reservoir by volume in the United States, or it was, before years of drought and increased demand drew it down to levels that alarmed water managers and made national news. The white bathtub ring around the edges of Lake Mead, the pale mineral line showing where the water used to be, became one of the more striking visual indicators of Western water stress in the 2020s. At its lowest point in recent years, the lake dropped to levels not seen since it was originally filling in the 1930s. Boat launch ramps that had been in use for decades ended up sitting on dry land. Previously submerged structures began to reappear along the shoreline. Southern Nevada has actually been one of the more aggressive regions in the West when it comes to conservation. The Southern Nevada Water Authority has paid homeowners to remove grass for years, and the state of Nevada passed legislation requiring the removal of non-functional turf, decorative grass that nobody actually uses, by 2026. The golf courses that used to be a symbol of Las Vegas excess have been a consistent target of these conversations. Several have been converted or closed entirely, and yet the metro area keeps growing. Nevada has been one of the fastest growing states in the country for decades. The tension between growth and a finite water supply in the middle of a desert is not a problem that has been solved. It has been managed carefully and expensively, but not solved. Water rights on the Colorado River are governed by a century-old legal agreement called the Colorado River Compact, signed in 1922, and the allocations it established have been contested ever since. Tourists generally don't think about any of this while they're watching the Bellagio fountains. The Bellagio, it's worth noting, recycles its fountain water and uses recycled wastewater for the display. Las Vegas's water reuse systems are actually quite sophisticated. Treated wastewater that goes back into Lake Mead counts against the city's water allocation, which creates a strong financial incentive to recapture as much as possible. But standing there watching choreographed arcs of water shoot 240 feet into the air over a man-made lake in the Mojave Desert, the overall picture is still something worth sitting with. What locals actually do on weekends If you ask someone who's lived in Las Vegas for more than a couple of years what they do on weekends, the answer almost never involves a casino floor. It usually involves going somewhere else. Red Rock Canyon National Conservation Area is about 17 miles west of the Strip. It's a genuinely spectacular landscape. Red and cream sandstone formations, hiking trails ranging from casual walks to serious climbs, wildlife, and a 13-mile scenic drive that most visitors to Las Vegas never take. On a weekend morning, the parking lots fill up with locals who've driven out there to hike before the heat peaks. The Calico Hills section is particularly dramatic, the kind of scenery that makes people stop mid-hike and just stand there for a moment. Mount Charleston, about 35 miles northwest, sits at nearly 12,000 feet and offers a completely different climate. In summer, it can be 30 degrees cooler than the valley floor. There are trails, a lodge, and in winter, a small ski area called Las Vegas Ski and Snowboard Resort. People who live in Las Vegas drive up there specifically to see trees, which says something about the valley. The sight of a pine forest after weeks of flat beige desert does something to a person. Lake Mead National Recreation Area, despite its water level challenges, remains a place where locals boat, kayak, and camp. Hoover Dam sits at the lower end of Lake Mead, straddling the Nevada-Arizona border, and was completed in 1936. It's an extraordinary piece of infrastructure that visitors to Las Vegas drive past on the way to other things without fully appreciating what they're looking at. Valley of Fire State Park, about an hour northeast of the city, has some of the most visually dramatic desert scenery in the Southwest. Ancient red sandstone, petroglyphs from thousands of years ago, formations that look like they belong on another planet. The outdoor recreation accessible from Las Vegas is remarkable, and it's almost entirely invisible to tourists who fly in, spend 3 days on the Strip, and fly out. The city sits at the intersection of the Mojave Desert, the Great Basin, and the Colorado Plateau. The geography is extraordinary. The Strip is largely indifferent to all of it. People think there's nothing here but casinos. I run in Red Rock 3 times a week and I've never once run into a tourist. Local trail runner. The cost of living nobody advertises. Las Vegas has long marketed itself as an affordable alternative to California. For many years, that was accurate. Nevada has no state income tax, and the overall cost of living made it an attractive destination for retirees, remote workers, and anyone priced out of the coastal cities. The pitch worked. People moved here in enormous numbers. That calculus has shifted significantly. The pandemic years brought an enormous influx of remote workers, particularly from California, which drove home prices up sharply. Between 2020 and 2023, the Las Vegas housing market went through one of the more dramatic appreciation cycles in the country. Median home prices roughly doubled in some submarkets. People who bought homes in Henderson or Summerlin in 2018 did extremely well. People who were renting and hoping to buy found themselves frozen out. Rents followed. People who'd been renting in Las Vegas for years found themselves priced out of neighborhoods they'd lived in for a decade. The service industry workers who keep the casino floors running, the dealers, the housekeepers, the kitchen staff, the valets, often can't afford to live particularly close to where they work. Long commutes into the resort corridor are common. The valley's car-dependent layout makes those commutes more expensive and time-consuming than they would be in a city with functional transit. The city also has a persistent problem with homelessness, concentrated in areas just off the resort corridor. There is a tunnel system beneath the streets of Las Vegas, flood control channels built to handle the desert's occasional flash floods, that became over the years home to a population of people living underground. Journalist Matthew O'Brien documented this extensively in his book Beneath the Neon, published in 2007, and the situation has been covered repeatedly since. It is not a secret, but it is not something the tourism infrastructure draws attention to. Nevada's tax structure, which leans heavily on gaming and sales taxes rather than income taxes, creates a funding dynamic for public services that periodically strains schools, infrastructure, and social services. Nevada's public school system has historically ranked near the bottom of national performance measures. It's a trade-off the state has made deliberately, and the benefits of no income tax are real, but so are the costs. Las Vegas is genuinely one of the more fascinating cities in the United States. Not because of the neon or the casinos or the idea that anything goes, but because of the gap between what it presents and what it actually is. A real city of more than 2 million people, built in a desert, sustained by an industry unlike any other, constantly growing, constantly changing, running on a water supply that requires serious management, staffed by a workforce that often can't afford the city it runs. The tourists who roll in on a Thursday, hit 4 casinos, eat at a buffet, lose a couple $100, and fly home Sunday. They saw a version of Las Vegas. They saw the part designed to be seen, the part that costs the most, shows the most, and tells you the least. The locals who wave their hand toward the Strip and say, "Just keep driving," aren't being snobs. They've just been here long enough to know the difference between the performance and the place, between what Las Vegas sells and what Las Vegas is, between the version on the billboard and the version people actually live. And now so do you. If you found this useful, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel reach people who'd appreciate this kind of content. And if you want more videos like this, subscribe so you don't miss them. We put a lot into getting this stuff right, and it's good to know people are watching.